Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Today I'm going to be talking about the concept of how, in my early days of choosing relationships, and the relationship dynamic was really unhealthy for me because of my previous experience with not having that feeling of true unconditional love, having that experience of family members, of all these different events, celebrations, and it kind of it makes you have different intentions than a normal relationship should have, and the boundaries between them, and just kind of like talking about my perspective on it. The dynamic of lacking that parental love, that the feeling that it's inherent, right? Like every, it's like that saying, I always remember that, like that saying of, every kid deserves a parent, but not every parent deserves a kid, that kind of thing. And the problem is when that kid doesn't have a parent, that love that you're supposed to nurture them, and feel like they're cared about, and they feel like that they're loved unconditionally no matter what, no matter if they're being rude or they're being silly, they, at the end of the day, like, hey kid, I love you, that kind of feeling. I lost my mother at a very young age, and so that loss really set on that feeling of what relationship dynamics were going to be. And so when I was going into a relationship, and maybe some other people can relate, and that's why I don't want you to blame yourself, because I don't blame myself either, for acting and making these mistakes, because I feel like when you go into a relationship, both of you should choose each other daily, that kind of thing. I talked about this in a previous video, where sometimes it turns into obligation, and it gets really difficult in those times, right? And so the mistake I made was that I felt the love. I felt what it was like to have that unconditional love and not prove yourself over and over and over again that you deserve this love, right? And so what would start to happen is that now it wasn't a choice. It wasn't a gratefulness that, they gave me the love. It was like, it was a lifeline now. It started to attach me because it was filling a part of my heart that was empty. It was filling that part, and I noticed it really badly. I noticed it. And so it became a really unhealthy dynamic of, their choices in life, their dynamic, how much, like, the percentage wasn't the same, and it wasn't fair to them, right? So I noticed this dynamic, and that's why I broke up with, I chose to break up with someone. And like, you have to choose that you have to have that dignity and being real to yourself. You can't have a relationship where it's not 50-50 all the time. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm working on myself now. I'm truly, I know there's these cravings sometimes I get. There's these like, I want to reach out. I want to like try to get with people, but my brain, is not sober. That's the thing that I'm harping myself on, is that you have to make these decisions when you're sober. You know what I mean? Like, not alcohol, like, difference. I'm talking about that soberness. We all know this, like, when you're in love and you have these feelings for, like, the day and throughout the week or whatever the case may be, and you're not acting straight. You're not acting right. That's why I call it sober. You need to be like sober. And so I've learned to keep myself away from that. I've learned to, be patient with myself, and, I need to be back up here. Even though I'm down here, and it may look like I'm maybe up here, from words, but I need to speak in actions, because those are the true meaningful things. Those are the real actions that I can't procrastinate these things anymore, because it's going to lead to me being lazy. It's going to lead me to, talking more than words. I want to be that person that's actually truly talking in action. So that's what I'm doing, is that I'm not contacting anyone. I'm not doing any of that. I know my true intentions for relationships now, and so I'm never going to get a relationship unless I know I can be there 50-50. You may have your moments where you are, you need that support. You're going to feel like 70-30, but you have to bring yourself back up. You know what I mean? You have to get back up on your feet. And so I'm well aware of that and my dynamic. And I just wanted to relay this, because maybe you feel like this, and it's okay to feel like this. You don't have to harp on yourself, so you don't have to beat yourself up for being this way, because it's normal. It's just that you've been through so many different measures of trying to survive and trying to live your life like normal, and then you see the benefits of everyone else has, these people that are living their normal lives and have a normal family dynamic, and so, those feelings really start to attach to you, and you want it forever. And now it confuses the things, your priorities, and what you truly want in life. And so I'm so glad that I noticed this, because love isn't supposed to replace self-love at all. It's just supposed to bring it up. You're supposed to have your own actions, your own ability to get up and do things, but it can only support it. It will not create love. It will not create self-love. It will not, change your life so drastically that you're just 10 times better. No, you must build that self for yourself. That foundation needs to be created by yourself, because then you can, if something happens, for example, if something happens that's out of your control, something happens to them, you won't be sobbing, crying, or going through, yeah, you will be sobbing. Let's be real, you will be sobbing. But I'm talking about, you won't be panic attacking, you won't be absolutely devastated. You can rely on yourself still. You can still bring yourself back up. And so I feel like that's the main thing, is that especially like when relationships are ending, the toxic behaviors really come out when it starts to end, because, for example, there's so many different things, trauma, trust issues, all these things that when something's happening like this, where it's breaking off, you're like, no, please, I will do anything, that kind of thing. But you have to realize their side of the story. You can't be going on yourself. I don't blame you for doing that, but you have to rely what they're doing, what they're going through, their thoughts. They have to choose you. You can't hold them there. You can't force them there. And that's just how life is, man. You have to be real with yourself. And I guess the way that I could wrap this whole thing up is that love is powerful. And that's why it's scary. It can be really amazing, or it can be really devastating. And so if you don't have that foundation, love can just hurt you instead of help you. And so yeah, that's all I just wanted to reassure in today's video. But I appreciate all the likes, comments, and subscribes. This channel has been doing absolutely amazing. I've literally just started it out of it as a hobby, and people are liking my messages. People are liking the talks that I have, and it's really amazing. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for everything. Much love as always, and I will see you in the next one.